Let's discuss a moment that no one ever really prepares you for. The moment that follows intimacy. It's not the build-up, the seduction, or even the intense moments before your lips meet, or the heat that builds between your bodies as you approach the peak. I'm referring to what happens afterward, the quiet that settles, the exhale of relief, the moment when all the adrenaline fades away, and all that's left is you and him, with nothing to hide behind. That space, those soft and sometimes awkward moments, that is where the real truth reveals itself. Here's the surprising part. Many women believe the moment that truly matters is the act itself. Was I attractive enough? Was it good? Did I turn him on enough? But in reality, what happens after intimacy plays a much larger role in how a man sees you, how he remembers the experience, and most importantly, how emotionally connected he feels to you. You see, while any man can be turned on by physical chemistry, what makes him want something more than just a fleeting encounter is how he feels after. That's when his heart checks in, asking, am I connected here, or am I already pulling away? Let me be straightforward. A man never forgets what a woman does in that moment after intimacy. Whether it's the way she touches him, the first thing she says, or how she either pulls him closer or moves away. That moment after intimacy is like an emotional imprint. It reveals how safe she feels with him, how confident she is in herself, and whether what happened between them was real or just a convenient fling. And here's the truth. Some women treat that moment as a transaction, something done and checked off the list. Others transform it into something meaningful, a kind of alchemy where he feels something he can't quite name but knows he wants again. So what can you do in that moment to make it unforgettable for him? What do high-value, emotionally intelligent women do to make a man feel not just physically satisfied but emotionally seen? That's what we're about to explore. Let me guide you through 5 things that leave a lasting imprint on a man's heart after intimacy, and that make you stand out in a way no move in the bedroom ever could. Because your true power doesn't lie in how you love him in the heat of the moment, it's in how you hold that moment afterward. One of the first things you can do is the way you hold him. Like it's safe for him to be vulnerable, to soften. After intimacy, there's a quiet space that many overlook. It's that stillness where nothing needs to be said, but everything is felt. It's in that moment, when the physical fades into silence, that your emotional power becomes most evident. Men, even though they don't always vocalize it, carry a lot of pressure. They feel the need to perform, to lead, to impress, to protect. Even during intimacy, many men feel they must keep up that strong, dominant energy, holding everything together until after. And it's then, in the aftermath, that they unconsciously ask themselves, is it okay to just be? Is it okay to stop performing, to relax, to be held, not as a man who must provide or prove something, but simply as a human, when you're the woman who answers that unspoken question with your arms, when you hold him in a way that says, you can breathe here, you can soften here, you don't have to be anything but mine, that's when he melts into you in a way no technique could ever achieve. That's not physical anymore, it's emotional safety. There's something deeply powerful in being the place where he can exhale. When you run your fingers through his hair, pull him close, or trace gentle circles on his skin, not needing anything more from him, just being present. That's when you make him feel wanted, not just desired. And here's the secret most people miss. Men remember the woman who made them feel whole, not the one who treated them like a trophy or the one who performed. It's the woman who, in that tender space, didn't see them as a role to play, but as a person to hold. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It can be subtle. You don't have to say a word. You just have to be in that moment with him, eyes closed, body relaxed, letting him rest against your chest or curl into your arms without judgment or expectation. You don't need to fix, entertain, or perform. You just need to be there, soft, safe, and steady. Trust me when I say that men don't get that from everyone. Most of the world tells them to toughen up, to stay guarded, to stay in control. But when they meet the one woman who offers something different, who invites them into her warmth without conditions, that is a memory that never leaves. So when I say he'll never forget the way you hold him after intimacy, I mean it. Because in that moment, you're not just the woman who turned him on. You're the one who saw the part of him that he didn't show anyone else, and instead of shrinking away, you embraced it. That's not just unforgettable. Another key point is when you don't rush to fill the silence. There's something sacred that happens after intimacy, a quiet space, a lull, a stillness that fills the room. For many people, this silence can feel uncomfortable, as if something must be said to break the moment before it gets awkward. But here's the truth that most never realize. The silence isn't awkward, it's powerful. It's a space where two people are simply being. No roles, no expectations, no performance, just skin against skin, heartbeats matching, with nothing but breath and presence between you. And in that moment, the most unforgettable thing you can do is nothing at all. You don't need to talk, you don't need to joke, and you certainly don't need to fill the silence with nervous chatter or commentary. A woman who can sit in silence, especially after intimacy, sends a message far more profound than anything she could say. It's a message that says, I'm comfortable here, I'm comfortable with you, and more importantly, I'm comfortable with myself. And to a man, that kind of grounded confidence is magnetic. Most people are addicted to noise. The moment things get quiet, they rush to fill it, trying to prove they're still interesting, still engaging, still desirable. But that need to perform often comes from insecurity, from the fear that if we don't say something, we might lose their attention. However, a high-value woman knows that her presence alone is enough. She knows that if a man is worth her energy, he'll value her stillness just as much as her spark. Here's what makes this moment emotionally powerful for a man. It's rare. It's rare for him to be with someone who doesn't try to fix, fill, or overcompensate. It's rare to lie next to someone who simply exists in the moment without needing to prove anything. And in that silence, a man gets to check in with himself for the first time and ask, what do I feel right now about her, about this? If you can sit still in that silence and let it unfold naturally, you become part of that deeper reflection. You become tied to the emotional experience, not just the physical one. The silence becomes a container for connection. So when you lie next to him and say nothing, when you just breathe, when you meet his eyes, smile softly and say with your energy, I'm right here and I don't need to run from this, you become unforgettable. Not because you dazzled him with your words or actions, but because you didn't need to. Because your power wasn't in what you said, it was in what you didn't say. It was in your comfort with intimacy beyond words, and in your ability to let the moment speak for itself. And I promise you, he will remember that silence, he'll remember how safe it felt, and he'll remember who gave him that feeling. Lastly, when you say something real, not rehearsed, after intimacy, everything slows down. The rhythm changes, the rush dissolves, and you find yourselves lying there, skin against skin, hearts beating a little more slowly. The moment is heavy with emotion. In that fragile, wide-open space, what you choose to say or not say can echo in his mind long after the lights go out. The words you choose in that space hold weight. They have the power to either deepen the connection or let it slip away. Remember, it's not just about the act of intimacy itself. It's what comes after that truly defines the bond. It's those quiet moments, the way you hold him, the silence you share, and the words you choose that can leave a lasting impression. Those are the moments that define not just your relationship, but also how he'll remember you. Men don't always remember perfect lines, they remember the real ones. They remember the woman who spoke from a place of honesty, not from a place of rehearsal. It's not about impressing or manipulating or controlling the vibe. It's about simply letting her truth rise to the surface and sharing it. It could be something simple like, "God, I feel so safe with you," or "I wasn't expecting to feel this much, but I really like where this is going," or even something playful like, "You drive me crazy in the best way." It's not the content of the words that makes them powerful. It's the fact that they are real, unfiltered, and rooted in the present moment, not in some strategy. Because here's the thing, after intimacy, men are incredibly attuned. They may not always show it, but they're absorbing everything, your energy, your words, your comfort with yourself. When you speak from your heart instead of your ego, they feel that. You become more than just the woman they shared a bed with. You become the woman who shared herself emotionally, authentically, confidently. And that's rare. See, most people get nervous after intimacy. They revert to surface level conversation, joke around, deflect, or even downplay the connection because they're afraid of being too much. But the woman who isn't afraid of her own depth, who can look a man in the eye and say what she feels without needing it to be reciprocated, is the woman who leaves a lasting imprint. Vulnerability isn't weakness, it's boldness of the highest kind. When you give a man a piece of your truth in that intimate space, what you're really saying is, "I trust myself enough to be seen right now," and that is unforgettable. He may not even have the words for it, but he'll feel it in his gut. He'll leave that room thinking, "She's different." Not because you said the perfect thing, but because you said something true. That doesn't mean you need to pour your heart out. It just means you get to show a glimpse of your real self. A thought, a feeling, something playful, something deep. Whatever is true in the moment. Say it softly. Say it slowly. Say it without needing validation. Because the woman who isn't afraid to be real after sex is the woman a man doesn't just desire. She's the woman he remembers, not for what she did, but for who she was. When everything was stripped back and all that was left was her voice and her truth. When you touch him without wanting more, there's a subtle, deeply seductive kind of touch that doesn't get talked about enough. It's not about turning him on, leading him back into foreplay, or hinting at round two. It's the kind of touch that says, "I'm here, I'm with you. I'm not trying to take anything from you, I just want to feel you." Men, especially those who are used to touch as a form of performance or expectation, never forget this kind of touch. After intimacy, when everything is raw and real, most women underestimate how sensitive men are to the energy behind their touch. You might think he's strong, in control, stoic even, but in that post-intimacy space, he's wide open. Receptive. Touch in that moment becomes emotional communication. That's why when you gently run your fingers down his chest, or softly trace the line of his jaw, or simply place your hand on his back as he lays beside you, without it being about getting more or giving more, it registers differently. It tells him you're safe, you're wanted, not for what you can do, but just for who you are. And that changes everything. You see, so much of intimacy in our culture is goal-oriented. It's about the chase, the climax, the peak. And once that peak is reached, so many people just shut off emotionally. They roll away, grab their phones, get dressed. And it's like, okay, mission complete. But when you stay, when you linger with him, when you touch him in a way that isn't about sex anymore, but about connection, that's when you stand out. Because that kind of touch doesn't come from a need, it comes from emotional fullness. It says, "I'm not touching you to get something back. I'm touching you because I feel something with you. And that lands deeper than you think. It lands in a place most men didn't even know they needed to be touched. Because here's what most won't admit. Even the most masculine, confident men crave nurturing. They crave affection that isn't transactional. They crave moments where they can drop their armor and just be held. But the world doesn't offer them much of that. So when you become the exception, the woman who, after intimacy, softly rests her hand on his skin without needing to excite or impress, you create a new kind of memory for him. You give him something so rare. Touch without agenda. It might seem small to you, a simple graze of your fingers, a soft back rub, a quiet cuddle while his eyes are closed. But to him it will speak volumes. It will say, "You're enough, just like this, and I'm still here." That kind of touch doesn't just linger on his skin, it lingers in his heart. Because when you don't need to take anything from him, when your touch is an offering, not a request, he feels it in a way that rewires his entire idea of connection. And that feeling, that's the one he chases long after the moment is over. When you let him see that you're at peace with yourself after intimacy, the most powerful thing you can bring into that room isn't a new move or a sexy phrase. It's your energy. Specifically, the energy of a woman who is completely at peace with herself, who's not second-guessing, not calculating, not wondering if she was good enough, hot enough, wild enough. She's just peaceful. Because here's the truth, most people don't talk about this after intimacy. Insecurity loves to sneak in, that quiet voice that says, "Was that enough? Did he enjoy it? Does he like me more now? What is he thinking?" And without realizing it, we can begin shifting our energy into one of performance or even emotional grasping. We start searching his face for signs of approval, reading into his silence, and losing ourselves in trying to manage his perception. But a woman who lies there with ease, who isn't trying to prove anything or chase reassurance, is a woman who radiates something rare and intoxicating: self-trust. And men feel that. They feel it in the way you breathe, in how you stretch out comfortably like you belong there, in how you look at him, not to check if he's satisfied, but as if you are. It tells them, "I am enough, I know it, and I don't need you to validate it." And that right there is what sets you apart. Because most people show up to intimacy hoping the experience will give them confidence, that it will make them feel more wanted, more valued, more lovable. But when you enter and exit the experience already rooted in those things, already confident, already full, that's when intimacy becomes powerful. That's when it becomes a shared celebration, not a secret negotiation for self-worth. And here's the kicker. Men might not always know how to describe that energy, but they feel it in their bones. It relaxes them. It makes them feel safe, not just physically, but emotionally. Because your inner peace gives them permission to stop performing too, to be real, to land in the moment with you instead of floating in self-doubt. And the irony is, that peace you radiate, that's what draws him in even more. It's what makes him crave your energy, not just your body, your energy. Because it's rare, it's grounding, it's healing. You become more than just the person he was intimate with. You become the woman whose presence made him feel more at home in himself. So after intimacy, don't rush to fill the space. Don't scan for signs. Don't let your mind spiral into the what now trap. Breathe, smile, stretch, pull the blanket over your shoulders, rest your head on his chest without analyzing it. Just be. Because when you are at peace with yourself, it changes the entire energy of the room. And in that stillness, he sees a woman who doesn't just look confident, but lives it. That's not just attractive, that's unforgettable. You see, intimacy isn't just about what happens between the sheets. It's about what happens after. It's in the stillness, the silence, the breath, The way two people exist together once the noise fades and everything becomes real. Men remember so much more than we think. Not just the physical spark, but how they felt in your presence once the fire settled. They remember the way you held them, not as someone trying to keep their attention, but as someone who knew her worth, whether he stayed or not. They remember when you didn't try to fix the silence, when you let it hold you both, like a warm, sacred blanket. They remember that one unscripted thing you said that felt more real than any performance, the way your hands touched them, not to ask for more, but just to say, I see you, I'm still here. And they remember the calm, the peace, the quiet certainty of a woman who knows exactly who she is. That's the woman a man keeps thinking about long after the clothes are back on, long after the lights go out, long after the moment has passed. So here's my challenge to you. Be that woman. Not the one who tries to be unforgettable, but the one who is, because she shows up fully, calmly, softly, with depth, with confidence, with no need to prove a thing. Because when you become the woman who makes him feel seen, not just sexually, but emotionally, you rise above the noise. You shift from being an experience to being a memory he can't shake. So the next time you find yourself in that post-intimacy space, don't ask yourself what you need to do to keep him. Ask instead, how can I show up as the most grounded, present, powerful version of myself? That's where the magic lives. And when you live there consistently, you won't need to chase connection. You'll attract it effortlessly.